Continuing on to the next captain of the Gote 13, we have Toshiro Hitsugaya in today's video. And while I'm not the biggest fan of Toshiro, I do see a lot of people in the Bleach community downplaying this guy, and I don't really understand why. Like, I'm not a big fan of him either, but he does have some very impressive showings throughout the entire series. Even when he's in the back foot of a battle or in the losing position, he does seem to do something rather impressive even in those moments, and I gotta give him credit for that. But if you enjoy these Bleach power scaling videos, we are on the Hub summer schedule, meaning you're getting a video every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and all I ask for in return is a like on the video and a subscribe to the channel because it helps me out more than you know. Also, consider clicking that join button to become a channel member to get access to hidden content, such as debates that I have with people and past live streams. I'm trying to upload more debates to just, reward those of you that are becoming channel members so you guys actually have more content to watch. I'm trying to look out for you guys. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this. You guys know how we do. We're going to go through every one of the arcs. We're going to talk about what Toshiro does in those arcs, why it's impressive, and then we're going to go over his abilities. And hopefully by the end you have a newfound respect for Toshiro, or if you're a Toshiro stan, you're probably just foaming at the mouth ready for this video, right? Now, Toshiro doesn't do a whole lot in the Soul Society arc, but coincidentally, and I think just funnily enough, he smacks Momo and Izuru twice, just the both of them twice. So the first time is when they're trying to fight when Aizen has his fake body on display. Izuru's like, oh, you can't attack my captain, and Momo's just in this blind rage and tries to attack Izuru. And Toshiro just casually negs the both of them, like he's literally stepping on Momo's Zanpakuto and holding back Izuru with his arm. Pretty chatty. But then when he's fighting Gin, like right before that, he literally just backhands Momo with the pimp hand and one-shots her, and Izuru gets passively negged by Toshiro Shikai. But then we have the Big Mac Daddy moment. We have Toshiro versus Gin, which I see a lot of people downplay. I don't understand why. People just can't accept the fact that Toshiro does really well in this fight. In fact, for all intents and purposes, he locks down Gin in this battle and forces him to try to attack Momo so Gin can try to get out of the trap that he's been put in. And had it not been for Ongiku, I mean, Momo probably would have died and then Toshiro might have killed Gin, who knows. But give respect where it's due, he locked that dude down in the entire battle, even when Gin tries to catch him off guard. By piercing his Zanpakuto through his cloak, Toshiro still dodges it, which maybe you can say, oh, Gin's true target wasn't Toshiro, he was actually going after Momo. Which I think, yeah, would make sense for Gin's character. He made it a catch-22 where if Toshiro dodges it, Momo gets stabbed, but if he takes it, then he gets stabbed, and I mean, that puts him in a worse position in the battle. And look, don't misunderstand, I'm not saying that Toshiro just spanks Gin all over the place. There is some leeway, because Momo being present does change a little bit of the situation of the battle, but you do have to acknowledge that they're very relative. They are swapping hands the entire fight, and Toshiro does ultimately lock him down. So already a very, very good showing for Toshiro, but let's move on into the Arrancar Saga. And this is where Toshiro's feet start to get a little bit weird. Like, we could talk about him killing Xiaolong, but that tends to be a bit situational. I mean, if you want to use Renji's statement where Renji's like, man, if we were to fight them head on without the Gentei Kaijo, and like I'm at 100% and they start off at 100%, I just automatically lose. Because Toshiro still did get pretty messed up in that battle, but again, he took a lot of those hits while he was suppressed. So maybe Toshiro wouldn't have taken all of those if he started the battle at 100%. He's, already a captain. Renji's not, but Renji's already captain level, so take all that for what you will. But moving on a little bit further into the arc, we have the fight with Luffy, where it's a little bit of a back and forth. I think everybody pretty much acknowledges that Toshiro got a fat W in this fight. He blocks one of Luffy's arms and he's like, heh, all you got is one arm, and then Luffy comes in with 8 and smacks him and just like knocks Toshiro unconscious. And it is actually acknowledged that Toshiro's Bankai did get messed up. It wasn't just Toshiro using a feint to try to set up his Wombo combo. I mean, it sort of was. He did want to get knocked around so then he could take that time to set up the big Wombo combo atmosphere destruction, right? But I do want to give Luffy a little bit of credit here and say that, yeah, he did destroy a little bit of Toshiro's Bankai, but yeah, he messed up Luffy so bad that even Yami looks over and he's like, dude, Luffy just died. Which means Luffy's SP had to get knocked down super low for Yami to think that he was dead. But then probably the most impressive thing that Toshiro does is actually fight Hollybell. Now that's like the big major fight for him in the Arrancar Saga. And I'm not going to hold you guys, Toshiro was a lot weaker than Hollybell. I mean, even base Holybell was bullying Bankai Toshiro around, and then as soon as she goes into her resurrection, she about one-shots him. Thank God he had that ice clone, otherwise it would have been lights out for Toshiro. But what's super impressive about this fight with Holybell is that he's portrayed to be so much weaker than her, to the point where one shot can be fatal to him, where he can just get killed in one blow. Yet his techniques really carry him through this entire battle. I mean, Holybell's firing cascadas from her resurrection self, and Toshiro finds a way to kind of block some of those hits. And actually, probably the most impressive thing is he does ultimately seal her pretty quickly during their battle. He realizes this person's way stronger than me, so I'm going to go for the seal. And it actually does work. So I'm willing to give Toshiro the W in that match because it is confirmed in the 3rd data book that Wonder Weiss did need to come in and bust Holybell specifically out of that seal because she was completely done otherwise. But now we move into the 1000-Year Blood War where things get a little crazy. Now there are 4 different versions for Toshiro in the 1000-Year Blood War. He fights with just his Shikai after he gets his Bankai stolen. There's like regular Bankai Toshiro, there's adult Toshiro, and then there's zombie Toshiro. So there's like 4 different versions of Toshiro in this arc. So instead of going chronologically, I'm just going to cover them from Shikai, Bankai, zombie to adult. Alright, so we're just going to go in that order so we kind of stay on the same page for each and we're not bouncing all around the arc. So Shikai Toshiro in this arc, he kind of fights Bazby a little bit with Rangiku's help. Like, he's able to counter out some of his flames, which is somewhat impressive. But it's really hard to say how much credit Toshiro should get because Rangiku is there and she's so crucial to the plan in making the thin ice, because Rangiku's sand is supposed to make like air pockets in the ice to make it actually way more sturdier and able to hold up to Bazby's different flames. So it's hard to give him a lot of credit and say, oh yeah, Toshiro totally just froze Bazby's flames, because as soon as it's a one-on-one, Bazby throttles Toshiro. Like, he absolutely mollywops him, as he should, considering Bazby is one of the few people that can threaten true Shikai Ichigo. He fights and damages Hashfald whenever he has like all of his powers taken away from the Ash Wall. And so, I mean, we'll talk about Bazby later. He'll get his own video and I'll go completely nuts over him. But bottom line, Toshiro can't really fight Bazby on his own. I think that's pretty evident. With Rangiku's help, he can kind of stand up to him, but it's not like it's an anti-feat or anything. Now, regular Bankai Toshiro, not the adult Toshiro, just regular Bankai, has a few pretty decent feats in the arc. Like, we could mention that he takes out Kangdu, but that has a little bit of weird holification in it, and he doesn't actually really take out Kangdu, because Toshiro passes out and Kangdu just kind of goes back to the Varvelt and he's just like, hey guys, I'm ready to be executed. So maybe you could give him that dub, say they're relative or something. But he's actually able to kind of stand up to the first version of Gerard, like the big version of Gerard before he takes in Bankai Kenpachi's powers. We see him actually bobbing and weaving around Gerard. And we even see him freeze him for a little bit, and Gerard has to like take both hands to like break his other arm out of the ice. So even base Bankai Toshiro is not like complete fodder in this arc. And I mean, zombie Toshiro should almost be as strong as that Bankai Toshiro. I know that's something that people are a little skeptical about, because Ikaku's like, bro, this guy has absolutely no SP. Like, his spiritual pressure is completely gone. So I know people are a bit iffy about zombie Bankai Toshiro scaling to regular Bankai Toshiro. But it's not like zombie Toshiro's any weaker, right? He's able to beat up Charlotte, who just completely dogged on zombie Bambietta. He thrashed Ikaku and Yumi Chika, and was even considered to be troublesome by Mayuri. Now, you could argue that Mayuri said he was troublesome because, you know, he doesn't want to kill another captain. He's like, oh, I gotta take this guy down in a non-lethal way. Or you could argue that Mayuri's like, this guy's pretty powerful. This could be a little troublesome. Again, considering that Mayuri and even base Bankai Toshiro can kind of scrap with members of the Shoot Stompel, I don't think that's too far-fetched to say it might be a power thing. And then I don't know if I need to talk about adult Toshiro too much, because that's like the cream of the crop for Toshiro, because he is thrashing a post Bankai Kenpachi Gerard with like little to no difficulty, and only really needs help at the very, very end. Because even when Gerard gets a hold of him, adult Toshiro is like, you're not allowed to touch me, and just freezes his entire body. Kenpachi trips Gerard, and then he gets blown up by Byakuya's new secret technique. So, I mean, adult Toshiro pretty much had that completely in the bag. And Again, keeping in mind that Godard takes the damage that's dealt to him and converts it into power, so all I'm saying is, like, you know, maybe adult Toshiro surpassing Bankai Kenpachi. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to say anything else other than that. I've already got a video on it, and I've got a 2-hour live stream covering that same topic, so, you know, more interest in becoming a channel member. But let's go ahead and get into Toshiro's abilities, because I've been trying to not mention them, because he is absolutely nutty with some of his abilities. So let's talk about the diverse, just absolute onslaught of abilities that Toshiro has at his disposal. Now, the Shikai is kind of just a lesser version of the Bankai, so I don't really have a whole lot to say about it other than it is called the Ultimate Ice Zanpakuto that controls the weather, and then it has a range of 7.3 miles, which is, I mean, a pretty impressive range, and I mean, being called the Ultimate Ice Zanpakuto is certainly a nice pep, but a lot of the abilities get shown to be used in the Bankai, where it is called the Ultimate Cryo Zanpakuto, which I think sounds a bit cooler than Ultimate Ice Zanpakuto, because now with his Bankai, all water is now his weapon, and it is debatable if he can control the entire atmosphere or just the sky, because when he's fighting Hollybell, which would be after he's trained a lot more, he's like, yeah, the entire sky is under my, like, jurisdiction. I can manipulate it freely. But when he's fighting Loopy, he's like, the entire atmosphere is under my jurisdiction. I can manipulate the planet as I see fit, which I'm like, all right, Toshiro, those are like two drastically different statements, man. If we're talking like you can create a global ice storm, I mean, that kind of bumps up Bleach power scaling just a bit, because the amount of energy required for Toshiro to manipulate the entire water on the entire planet in the atmosphere would be ridiculous. Like, we're talking absolute low ends are multi-continental, and high ends we're getting to like planetary ranges. We're getting some insane levels of power from that. We also find out that his Bankai actually regenerates, right? Because as long as there is moisture or there is water around, his Bankai will continually regenerate. And it seemingly has a level of independence, because as he's fighting Kangdu's like, well, the Bankai are just tools and weapons to be manipulated. And Toshiro's like, hey, let's get this dude. He thinks you ain't got no independence. And then they take him out together, right? And then aside from just general freezing and everything that his Bankai can do, because I mean, that's not all that interesting. It's like, ooh, ice, they're frozen. Like, more interestingly, he has sealing that can seal people that are way stronger than themselves, as we kind of talked about with Hollybell. But we actually learned that the level of freezing is to the bone, which means they are frozen completely, which again, if you're doing a calc for Toshiro, it makes everything infinitely more impressive. Instead of just freezing the top layer of their skin, they are completely and thoroughly frozen through, which takes significantly more energy and would thus make Toshiro significantly more impressive, and again, you know, bump up the level of power for the Bleach verse. And the final interesting ability that his Bankai brings is the ability to use ice clones, which he only thinks he can use once in a battle. I would be spamming that. I'd be making ice clones all over the place, but maybe it does take a huge toll on him to do that. Also, something interesting to note, after Fate Karakura Town, Toshiro has mastered his Bankai, which I thought was a very nice bit of foreshadowing for the 1,000-Year Blood War. When he's training, when he goes back to the school to kind of learn the basics of the Zanpakuto and how to fight, after getting his Bankai stolen, he says, man, I just completed and perfected my Bankai. It can be called a true Bankai now, and it gets jacked from me immediately as soon as I do that. But it's a nice allusion to the fact that there's something more to Toshiro's Bankai, and that gets into the adult form, or the completed final version of his Bankai, which is much stronger than the previous Bankai, or the base form of the Bankai, as said by Gerard, because Gerard literally says you're a far more worthy opponent now than you were just a few moments ago. But we also learned that it takes a heavy toll on him to use, because he's literally slumping over, and Byakuya is like, dude, are you gonna be okay? It looks like it's taking a heavy toll on you, and Toshiro's like, yeah, that's a really good guess, buddy, as he's like over there like dry heaving. But I would say the powers are worth it, because he gets the ability to nullify the abilities of others, meaning if he freezes somebody, their abilities get frozen, which is super broken, and the range is rather impressive. Like, Gerard tries to chuck his shield at Toshiro, and he just sticks his hand out and freezes him, and then he has the whole 4-second freeze thing where Gerard's like, oh, I'll just shoot you with the bow, and Toshiro's like, well, you were standing right there, so you're completely frozen to the bone. To which Kubo was like, well, I gotta make Gerard immune to the elements to actually have this continue being a fight. I don't know why he didn't just end it there, or end it with him getting shattered by Byakuya's secret technique. But it is still rather impressive. You also can't touch adult Toshiro, because if you touch him, you immediately get snap frozen. So it's just very, very impressive overall. And a little side ability I want to mention is that Toshiro potentially has a version of holification because of Kisuke's Hollow Pill, And if you really want to give him the benefit of the doubt on that, like the strongest potential Toshiro you could have is like a hypothetical adult Toshiro that takes the hollow pill. I think that'd be pretty dope, especially because he gets the little like eye thingy whenever he becomes like a hollow or whatever. I think that's super sick. So if I could see that on adult Toshiro, I think that'd be pretty cool. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video of us talking about Toshiro. Hope you guys learned a thing or two. Maybe you respect Toshiro a little bit more. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace. Late, guys.